is not around, I could still volunteer to evaluate Okote's speech.
Okay, it's all right.
Yeah.
You will evaluate Mr. Okot Samaola.
Okay, just briefly to go through what I also expect on the side of Mr. Okot Samaola is, of course, as earlier mentioned, an icebreaker will mainly, no, I don't think Mr. Okot is giving his icebreaker. He's progressing his third speech or his second project. And the title of his speech is "We Are the Gods, They Kill Us for the Sport." It's quite an interesting title. We are the gods, they kill us for the sport. So I wish you all the best in your second speech, and I will be, in the meantime, as I also wait for the allocated evaluator, in the meantime, I also give my feedback on your speech. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Now we're getting into the gist of the matter, what brought us here, and that is the speeches. And we want to have the very first speech. It's an evaluator. It's an icebreaker speech, and this is coming from none other than Asimwe Mohozi. This gentleman has no English name. Probably his parents and grandparents were against colonialism. Let us hear from this gentleman. He is giving his icebreaker speech.
Good evening once again, and Davison, thank you so much for that intro. It was nice. So the title of my speech is "This is my experience." Now, I was born on a cold May night back in 2000, and I was such a handsome baby boy. I was actually brown skinned. Okay, I was really light in color. I don't know what happened now. Yeah, I've become really dark. I was so energetic. I was so agog for life. And I just really, really just loved just being a kid, watching cartoons. Actually, I had a best friend called Guma. By that time, I couldn't really pronounce his name, so I used to call him Ma. He and I used to get into all sorts of trouble, breaking this, breaking that, playing policeman. Those are memories I look back on, and I'm like, wow, I've really come from far. And being energetic as I am, I used to give my little sister such a headache. Oh. Okay, she is such a sweet little girl. And for that, she was like my parents' favorite. And I think that really disturbed me a lot. So I did everything in my power to make her life hard. That's what I really used to disturb that little girl. Wow. Sometimes I talk, whenever I speak with her and we reminisce on what used to happen, I wonder, what was I thinking? Like, honestly, what was I thinking? But yeah, that was me back then. However nice life was, fate had other plans because my life actually took a dark turn back in 2010. It was actually just after enjoying a Christmas holiday back in the village. We had such a merry good time, enjoying it with my grandmother and all my cousins and everything. It was such a nice time. But then, on our way from Shema, okay, that's where my home district is. We had just arrived in MPG, and all of a sudden, everything just happened in an instant. Before I knew it, I heard that my parents had passed on. As a little child, this blew my mind. I was totally devastated. I kept on asking, God, why? Why me? Why me at such an early age? Because it was back in 2010. I was only 10 years old. Couldn't believe what had just happened to me. But anyway, in order to cope with this, I never told a single person, a single friend of mine about this. So, okay, the whole point of this was so that no one would treat me any different, so that no one would feel sorry for me. Yeah. But anyway, on the plus side, I was blessed with such a nice family that nothing really changed for me. Being taken care of, and yeah. Now, away from that, I would like, you know how all of us talk about soulmates and yes, all that love at first sight, yes, all that. Now, I'd like to introduce you to my soulmate. Damn, it was back in Form 2. I'd met this girl on Facebook. We used to chat a lot. And then I had a chance of meeting her back at a school reunion. And damn, I was dumbstruck. This girl was cute. She was stunningly beautiful. Wow, wow. Instantly, I just had a crush on her. Now, at that time, I was as slow as a snail. Hey, this girl gave me all the signs, but I managed to miss them all. There's actually a time when she called me, and I just started sweating profusely. My heartbeat could be heard from a mile away. I couldn't believe what this girl was doing to me. So, because I was so tired of being slow, I just had to put on my running shoes, and I asked her to be mine. And she said yes. I couldn't believe it. Wow, wow, wow. I was blown away. I was like, wow, okay. So because of that, okay, after asking her out, that brings us to the next thing, the first kiss. I'd never kissed a girl before, so I didn't know how it was supposed to be done. It was supposed to be done in the movies, whereby, you talk to her closely, look at her, stare into her eyes, then lean forward, and she leans in, you know. But damn, all this failed miserably because I'd gone to visit her and I tried all these stunts, but they all failed until I just held myself and asked her, "Hey, could you kiss me?" Oof, the smile that spread across her face. I can never forget that. Although that kiss lasted 0.5 seconds, but I swear it was like the best moment of my life at that time. I couldn't stop thinking about it for a full week. Oh God, growing up is so nice. So after that, fast forward, Form 6. Form 6 was like one of my wildest moments. During the beginning of that year, that was in 2018, we had a social with the beautiful ladies from Nabisunsa. And luck would have it, I went out with the head girl, and she was so stunningly beautiful. Damn, we were the envy of so many couples. She and I had a very good time with each other, moving around, holding hands. And yeah, and for that whole month, we couldn't stop talking about it. Everyone in the school, we just kept reminiscing about all that good times. Then at the end of that term, that very term, I got into a bit of trouble. I think this was like one of my scariest moments in the whole of high school. I was actually meant to be suspended from school because we illegally connected the socket in our hostel room and we're using it to watch TV, boil water. Just know every single weeknight, immediately from class, you come and watch Suits. To just know it was like the coolest room around. But fate would have it towards the end of that term, the teachers raided our hostel and were caught red-handed. Damn, I couldn't breathe. That whole week I was so down. I was so messed up. But thankfully, I sat myself down, I humbled myself down, and I prayed to God. And God heard all of my prayers. And me and my roommates were not suspended. We were not actually punished. Yet other guys were being punished, but none of us were touched. Anyway, this was my experience. Thank you guys for listening.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mohoz Asimwe. Indeed, this has been a very touching story. Ladies and gentlemen, I also went with Nabisunsa for social, my senior 6. However, my icebreaker never had an Nabisunsa girl. And this is where I now have to tell you that, yes, indeed, Mohoz went to Nambiango College. Thank you very much, Mohoz. That was a really interesting and fascinating story of an icebreaker. Congratulations upon doing your first project at the Makerere Gavel Club. The next hot speech, because today I'm telling you, all the speeches are going to be stupendous. And I am very agog about each and every speech coming up. And the next speech is from none other than Atamba Moses. Atamba Moses, if you are on that call, please unmute and share with us your very beautiful speech.
Yeah, thank you very much. Am I audible enough?
Yes, you are.
All right, thank you. Yeah, my speech for today is going to be titled My Journey. And I think I can begin. Life brings tears, smiles, and moments. The tears dry, the smiles fade, but the moments last forever. The Toastmaster, the Gaveliers, and the dear guests, good evening to you all. I'd love to take up this great privilege to give my icebreaker speech, and I feel very agog to finally officially introduce myself. My name is Atamba Moses, born on the 17th day of the third month in the late 90s in a family of 4 kids, with I myself being the third born or the second last born. My childhood was very experimental because I was very curious and always asked myself why things were happening the way they were, not the other way. So it got me rather very stubborn in a way, trying to, discover very many things that were going on in my life. I started off my education journey in the early 2000s while I was 2.5 years in a small nursery setting called Young Cranes that was located in Makinde Division. So I remember on the first day of school, I cried so much, obviously. I cried so much seeing my parents leave me in the hands of complete strangers, I called them. I couldn't take it in. I cried so much, I was so frustrated. Imagine a kid of 2 years. So at around 10 a.m., when we go to class, given the poor structural state of the school I joined, we didn't have burglar-proof metals in the window frames of the classrooms. So my brain quickly processed this to be the easiest exit I could use to run away from these strange people. So at around 10 a.m., when we're in class, when the teacher turned to face the blackboard, I wore my backpack and jumped through the window. I ran so fast without looking behind because I knew the way back home. And lucky enough, the school neither had a fence nor a gate. So this made my plan too achievable. I ran straight home. I cannot forget this story because I got to face the disciplinary committee on my very first day of school. Imagine that. But this got me thinking. This got me learning a lesson about me. I got to discover a trait that I had. I was a very good problem solver. I was good at looking for solutions to the problems that encountered me, or that I encountered. So I got to take my first lesson as a good problem solver. So I later joined my primary level. But before I joined my primary level, I completed my 3 years of nursery and I emerged the best in my entire class. And this kept everyone wondering how the Prison Break movie star could actually achieve this. But yes, I did. I was okay upstairs. So I later joined primary at City Parent School from P1 to P7 and completed in around 2010. One thing I still treasure about my primary friends is the quality of friends I made while there. My day one, with whom we shared very many big visions and always looked up to living to them. I remember my biggest dream, my first dream was to become a soldier. I wanted to become a soldier badly because my uncles, most of my uncles in my family were in the army. So I drew so much inspiration from this and from them. But as I grew older, I got to realize my brain got to grow and as I learned more, my dreams kept on changing. So I started for my PLE. Yeah, I excelled by God's grace. It was time for me to push to secondary school. Unfortunately or fortunately, I didn't get the school that was any of my choices. I got a school that I least expected. But as Jeremiah 29:11 says in the Bible, for God has the plans for you, plans of prosperity, not disaster. So I stood by this. This school that I joined was a Muslim founded school based on beliefs and cultures of the Muslims. And given my Christian religion and background, it took me so much time to get accustomed to their ways and moral conduct. My first year was rather the most challenging because I was new to the system and I was trying to get used to their principles. So it took me so much time. But one of the most disturbing things I recall was the separation of the boys and the girls in every aspect of the school system based on the Sharia law. But this got worse for me in the classrooms, where 2 rows were allocated for the boys and 2 rows were allocated for the girls. And whoever was caught crossing over to the opposite row, or even looking where mere turning of your head was subjected to heavy punishment. So I was always punished for this because I was used to close interaction with girls throughout my primary. So it took me so much time to get used to this. So I had to live with this for a few more years before I had to leave. So this got me learning how tolerant I was to this kind of system. Because trust me, when I left the school, I was a completely changed person. So I got to learn that I was really tolerant because most of my friends I started with in Form 1 had left the school. So this is point number 2 that I got to learn. In my academic life, our history teacher and I hated each other emotionally, deeply, strongly. And the source of the hatred is another topic for another day because it's some long story. But this got me hating the subject called history so much because of the teacher. And I later resorted to learning physics and mathematics. I do not know why. I still ask myself why those two out of the 10 subjects I feel. So I go to love so much of physics, so much of mathematics. And I realized I could actually do them way better than I could do history. But as the saying goes, or as they say, everything happens for a reason. Because this was very much proved with this kind of situation. That my turning away from history made me discover my strength in physics and math. And this is where my journey or my dream of becoming an engineer started. I later progressed to UCE. I successfully excelled in my UCE and was given a PEM combination at Makerere College School. And this brought me so much joy in my heart, planning to know that this was I was going to do the kind of studies I really love. So really fascinated by that. So I started off my HSC swiftly. Of course, I took up different responsibilities. I became information prefect, education prefect, Visa Life Club president, vice president, Civil Aviation Society, and this was a source of qualities that I really admired later in life. So I finished my USCE later in Form 6. But one thing I got to learn about my secondary life was that I got to believe in fate and destiny. Because everything that happens in our lives is scripted by God in heaven. Nothing happens by mistake. So when I did my Form 6, I excelled and I was admitted at Makerere University to offer a Bachelor of Science in Telecommunications Engineering. And I look up to this as a successful achievement in my life because the kind of turning I made right in Form 1 opened up my eyes and was my road to my destiny. So I look forward to successful completion of my course because I strongly and greatly believe and rely on the promises of God because I'm a believer. And God promises those that truly believe in Him shall never see disappointment. So for my story, I got to pick out 3 traits of who I am today. I'm a problem solver. I'm very, very tolerant, and I got to believe in fate and destiny. And as our theme of the day says, ends walk, but eagles fly. So I'm an eagle flying to my destiny. Thank you.
Thank you very much, the prison break star. And indeed, I can assure you that indeed God has a plan for you to prosper you as an eagle in public speaking. And thank you very much for your icebreaker speech. Congratulations upon doing your first project in the Makerere Gavel Club, Mr. Atamba Moses. That was quite a very relatable story. Right about now, I want to call upon a certain lady who has been flying a few interesting things, yellow, green, red, and we are wondering what's happening. So Mariana Nakawi, who happens to be the timer of today's meeting, has to come up and share with us what is the role of a timer in a Makerere Gavel Club meeting. And after telling us the role of a timer, she has to tell us how she does her thing. What is yellow? What is green? What is red? At what time does the yellow come, the red? And after Mariana Nakawi, I want Mr. S. I've seen him flying on the call. Come and tell us what you expect from your speaker. And right after Mr. S, we shall have Mr. Okot Ola give his tremendous speech. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you very much, Davison. I won't be putting on my video because my network is very unstable and I feel like it won't be effective. So basically what I'm doing is I'm the timer for the day. And what the timer for the day does is that they make sure that everyone is within the time limit. So I'm going to give the different time ranges we have for different speeches. So for each speech, it depends on what speech you're giving. If you're giving icebreaker, it's usually 6 minutes. If it's a different type of speech, it can range from 7 minutes to 8 minutes, depending on what type of speech it is. For table topic session, we have the total time for the session is 10 minutes, with each individual given an opportunity of 2 minutes to speak. And the different role takers, that is say the grammarian, the general evaluator, the hackmaster, the table topics master, the accounter, when they come to give their report, they have a time range of 3 minutes. So basically what I do is I share the screen to show when people are almost exceeding or almost coming to the end of their time range. So at the time of 4 minutes, I will share a green screen, which is like that, like what I shared. So I'll share this green screen when you reach your 4th minute, if you're giving your icebreaker speech. When you cover the 1st minute during maybe your table topic session, and during your 2nd minute, at the end of the 2nd minute, during the evaluation from maybe the grammarian, the accounter, or the timer, then I will share the yellow screen when it's 30 minutes to the end of your session. So if it's 30 minutes to the end of your icebreaker session, I will share the yellow screen as I've shared here. If you've covered 1 minute and 30 seconds, I will share the yellow screen. If you've covered at the end of the 2nd minute, yeah, I will also share this yellow screen. When your time is actually done, that is when I share the red screen, which I'm going to show you. Yes, so I'll share the red screen. But just because I share this screen, that doesn't mean that you should stop speaking. You should actually continue what you're saying. But then at that time, you should be mentally ready to wrap up whatever you're saying. Yeah. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mariana Nakawie, the timer of today. I think when you're explaining the yellow screen, you say 30 minutes to the end of your speech. I think you're trying to say 30 seconds to the end of your speech, because a speech is 6 to 7 minutes. But when you say 30 minutes to the end of your speech, I didn't get it there. Thank you very much, Nakawie. However, I saw Mr. S. He calls himself Mr. S. Say Ronald Reagan, Sebugeni. He's supposed to evaluate Mr. Okot Ola. And I saw him as if leaving the call. If he is on the call, please unmute. But if he's not on the call, please let us have this speech that we have been waiting for. The title was quite intriguing, and I'm very agog about what is entailed in the body and conclusion of this speech. Okot Samuel Ola, please take on the stage.
Am I clear?
Yes, you are.
Okay. Could you mute someone? It's an interference.
Let me do so. Please go on.
There's a big interference. I don't know. Okay, thank you. Thank you. Last week, I was faced with two ironical events. Firstly, I had the most important event of my life that I organized, but within those few days, I was faced with the news of the death of a general who had survived multiple wars all over East Africa, but he died of a blood clot. A few days later, I also lost a friend who was the healthiest of my friends in terms of lifestyle. He was a footballer, he never drank, he never smoked. He kept his body as a temple, and yet he collapsed while jogging, and lost his life. And these moments left me to wonder, who writes the scripts of life? And in that time, the words of Eric Cantona rang in my head when he said, "We are for the gods, they kill us for the sport." Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Okot Ola. My close friends and family call me Sam, though I think it's a colonial name, but that's a story for another day. These are my reflections from an accident that I had 2 years ago. It was late June. I think I was 21 or 22 years old. It was 2019. I was a second year student, but not just a second year student. Schoolwork alone did not tickle my adrenaline enough. So I'd chosen to be much more. I ran a thriving youth organization. I ran a couple of charities, a poetry community, a debate community, and I was impacting, on many young people at that point in time. I'd also just gotten an opportunity to do an internship in Turkey with the government for the whole of that summer. I walked around with a sense of satisfaction with what I was doing with my life. The difference was this morning, I was not walking, I was actually driving. After I'd picked up a few supplies for a debate camp that I was convening in Gulu town, I had to turn right on the junction. But my brain was not just turning right, it was turning left, up and down, north and south, with budgets, fundraising, team management, travel, and everything that can come across the mind of someone running many events. Before I could notice I had a loud bang just at my door, and another loud bang, and another loud bang, and a grinding sound, and a cry. And in that moment, I saw my face bleeding and my lips were cracked. I realized that I'd hit my head so hard on the steering that I barely noticed. Before I could notice, I was already back up. I realized I had been involved in a repo accident. If you're at the traffic lights and you see borders moving all at once, imagine colliding with all of them at neck break speed. So time stood still in that moment. And, you know, I was trying to comprehend, but I couldn't comprehend. But I snapped out of the moment because my survival instincts kicked in. I knew I was at the risk of being lynched because of the place I was at. So I stepped on the gas pedal and sped off in the direction outside town. I could barely comprehend anything. I just remember driving at neck break speed and a kid moving onto the road, and I had to brake or drift and continue driving until I got out of town and went to a primary school pitch and just sat there for hours thinking about what had just happened. You can imagine the thoughts that were going through my head. Of course, I was wondering if I should have stayed, but someone had just been killed for such a thing recently. So all these thoughts went through my head. I was hurt because I had to, you know, brake, and the impact was right at my door. So I had wounds and my lips were cracked and I was bleeding and everything. So I collapsed into, you know, a shade of a nearby tree, thinking about, you know, all the things that had just happened. Just a few seconds ago, you know, I was running everything perfectly, you know, all these events. And now here I am, almost having lost my life under a tree, trying to comprehend what this thing called life is, you know. Once again, the words of Cantona rang in my head. We are for the gods, they kill us for the sport. I later recollected myself and go to a police station. I found out that 2 people had been heavily injured, but they were not dead. Happy. I was happy to hear. In a small town like Gulu, it was easy to find us. So they approached my family, who agreed to pay the bills, and they tried to keep me away from because they understood the trauma that I was going through. As days went by, I suffered from post-traumatic stress disorder. But within that moment, I also reflected on a lot of things, you know, because that's what such moments in life do to a person. One of the things we yearn for is certainty, insurance. We want to be sure that the efforts that we are putting into Gavel to learn how to speak, you know, the efforts that we're putting into school, like my brother Moses, who has been very excellent, will be paid back by a long life with great family, great job, a lot of financial security. You know, you have 4 generations in your family, from your grandparents, but this is not the case. As we have seen this year alone, a lot of us lost a lot of people. I'll go back to Lokech, a general who conquered, you know, Mogadishu, but had to die of a blood clot at the time when he was rising to the top. And my friend Mike, who collapsed in a pit while jogging. Yet a lot of us here find all excuses for several years not to step, you know, to jog or try to be healthy. So I just came to the realization that nothing is certain. And from this junction, you can either take 2 paths. You can drown in fear, or you can just enjoy the moment, because you can just see this as a blessing because it frees you. There's nothing to expect much. But how then can we use the moments that we have with us? Once we free of our minds of fear, uncertainty, you know, we enter a realm of freedom. Our mortality becomes meaningful. As a pilot once said, when a boy asked him, I think you're enjoying this time of COVID because the planes are not flying. And the pilot said, no, actually, it's very expensive to keep planes down because they must fly. The rust is expensive to clear and all these things that happen when the plane is stationed. So all of us are meant to take a certain journey. Either a ship has its sails, a soldier must fight. But many times we are haunted by this fear. We are uncertain. that our efforts will actually be paid off in the way that we have always been taught, you know? So this gave me a sense of freedom. I chose the second part. I said, whatever bat I'm going to swing it with my most strength. If you watch the movie A Fault in Our Stars, they said there are several numbers between 1 to 10, but between 0 to 1, there's 0.01, 0.001, and a lot of decimals just between one number. One moment can mean a lot in our lives. And so we have to make sure whatever we do it to the most. I said at the beginning of the speech that I had the biggest event of my life. It was gathering most African strategic people in Minnews. And I couldn't believe that I could do such a thing. But I just chose to swing my bat. And guess what? It happened and it's done, you know? So when we just choose to live in the moment, try to do our best because nothing is promised, then it gives us that sense of freedom. But I don't want to sound like a motivational speaker because motivational speakers sound to me like they're telling Cain, the brother of Abel, always how to handle his curse of being a wanderer. Not everyone was born to be a wanderer, you know? Being great in life is not just about being the greatest speaker, being the greatest. It's about the environment around us, the life that Abel lived, the people around us, the family around us, the friends around us. How do we show them love? How do we appreciate them? That is also greatness. And I think it's one big way to be a great person. So whatever you do, if you're going to love to the fullest. If you're going to strive to be the best to the fullest. If you're going to be the greatest speaker, be the greatest speaker to the fullest. Because nothing is promised, but that doesn't lead us to fear. It actually frees us. These are my reflections from an accident in 2019. I remain Okot Ola. Thank you.
The last time I attended a masterclass, a public speaking masterclass, it was being held by one of the greatest public speakers in the country called Tony Ottawa. It's not by coincidence that his name also starts with letter O. And I love the storytelling style that you have, Mr. Okot Samuel. And I think it is indeed not by coincidence that you are called Okot, and one of the greatest writers in Uganda, Okot B. Tech, was also called Okot. And I would love to congratulate you upon in level 1. Thank you very much. Mr. Okot, that was such a great speech. And I wish I could stand and clap for you and even shake hands. So it is at this time that we prepare to seal this thing, because I told you the lineup today is Chelsea standard. All the speakers are fire. In fact, if you were to choose or to vote the best speakers, I don't even know who to vote, because man, all these guys are scoring 100%. So, ladies and gentlemen, the next speech or the next speaker is none other than one of our very own folk, Mr. Hosni Mubarak. And he's going to give his very first speech in the Makerere Gavel Club. You must be wondering, man, this guy is all over, he's on CNN, BBC, he's on billboards. How come he has never given a speech in the Makerere Gavel Club? Now, today is the day he opens up his account with the Makerere Gavel Club during his very first speech, which is an icebreaker speech. Hosni Mubarak, please take up the stage.
Hey, thank you so much for the tremendous intro. Honestly, I almost felt like I lost a kidney right there, listening to all the CNN and BBC stuff. But hey, it's actually a splendid pleasure to be on here. For the most part, I'm always listening in on other people's stories and trying to dig for the hiccups and kinks and mysteries here and there. But today, I guess the table is just turned. I remember some time back I was interviewing one of the board members of ISEC Uganda. The previous board, there's actually a new board right now, and so we did a whole round of podcasts. And then on the last one, he was like, "But hey, when do we ever get to hear your story?" And it kind of clicked to me that I was very much so paying attention to other people's stories, but never mind. I would like to apologize as well for not being able to share my screen. unfortunately, I'm unable to because my network seems to fail me, or perhaps I fail it. I would rather say it fails me. So I would rather have the audio just to be very clear. Swing a strong butt, like Okotola said. So apparently, I would like to say that as Hosni, I have learned to listen to myself from second person. I have never really had the culture of picking on to my traits, or perhaps generally my steps and stages, or perhaps how I move and how I do, how I groove. So I have always been very agog about paying attention to most of the things that come around myself, and for the most part come around other people. So anyway, as a kid, as a kid, I'd like to say my parents used to lock me into the house, and they would just leave. They would leave and go for work and all. And so I was so accustomed to cartoons and animations. I used to watch a lot of anime and lots of animations. Well, up to I think like 16, I still used to watch animations. Up to now, I still watch cartoons. Trust me, if I were to choose between Fast and Furious 9 and the latest season, or perhaps part of Frozen, it would definitely be Frozen. So it has always been something that I have, held so closely and dear to myself. However, as time went by, I had to then second myself into the culture of secular education. Now, I have never been one to score for secular education so much, because I've always wanted to put information into practice as soon as I learn it. And I feel, of course, very many people have that mutual sense of affiliation towards that way of doing things. But perhaps due to circumstances or situations, they are unable to. But to a certain extent, I kind of feel like it's not a question of circumstance or ability, but the courage to make a choice and to make the tough choice. I tend to hear people say, I don't have a choice, I don't have a choice, but I actually don't think that is true. I just feel like you don't have the courage to take the choice that is available to you, or perhaps that you should take. So I recall there was this time I was in class for an English lesson. I remember the teacher was called Mr. Muzimbo. Richard, he used to call himself Richie Leakey, something like that, with reckonance to the Stone Edge guy, something like that. So anyway, he was teaching us about, I can't really recall the subject anyway, like the subject of the bit of English. But then I raised my hand and I asked one of the dumbest questions on the planet. And I asked him, where did English come from? Who invented English? And everybody turned and they looked at me like I'd grown a second head. But like, they gave me that impression of, fam, you don't ask that. You're not supposed to even really be wondering where that comes from. So anyway, my parents were called, and I used to often ask those kinds of questions so much. I used to always, seek origin for most of the subject matter that would come along. So anyway, she was told that I used to really ask very, very stupid questions in class. Well, they're called stupid, but perhaps I just felt like I needed more validation for what I'm yet to understand. So then, of course, to cut the long story short, my time is due. I had to take on course for my own education, and I felt like education is very boundless. Education is very boundless. And if there is anybody or any system that tries to dictate what I need to know, or what I need to learn, or from whom, or from where, and I do not know these people, I don't know if they actually do have my best interest at heart, I can't really trust them with my brain, which I feel is the most important bit in my entire human structure, my way of thinking and all nine. So then I decided to learn on my own. So I got books from people that I admire, that are living, that have actually documented their process and their stories. And I just decided to study that, and then try to bring it into fruition. So I made a very bold choice in my own shoes to actually take control of my education and not let it be accustomed to a piece of document or piece of paper, one more or the other. So I guess that's pretty much my story. I definitely have a lot of loopholes here and there, that's for sure. But of course, I've never been one to be so good at telling my own sort of self stories. I guess that could really do. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Hosni Barak. That was such an insightful icebreaker speech. Something I think I get from you is that you try to stand out. You try to be an ego in all you do. You don't want to do the icebreaker the usual way that people do it. And we appreciate you that we actually get you whatsoever. And thank you very much upon opening an account with the Makerere Gavel Club by doing your icebreaker speech. And it's at this time where we get into the evaluation, table topics, all those interesting things. But before we get into that, we're going to do, we're going to play a game for 1 minute. But then this game is descriptive in nature. I'm going to mention a name of a speaker, one of the speakers, and you will type something that you think about them. You could describe them, or you could write something that excites you most about them. It could be a word that they like to say, or it could be something they like to do. It could be a description that you think best describes them. So are we ready? We are going. So get to your chat room, and I will mention the name of one of the speakers, and you type anything that you want, you think about them. The first one is Atamba Moses. Atamba Moses. Confident. What do you guys think about Atamba Moses? Schofield. Any other contribution? What do you think about Atamba Moses? Starboy. Defiance. Okay, we're going to the next. Go getter. Yeah. Keep them coming. The next speaker is Okot Samuel Ola. Hey, someone laughed. So what does that mean? When they see you, they laugh. What do you think about Spy Next Door, Chaos, Cantona, whatever that means? What do you guys think about Okot Samuel Ola? The rich and famous. Man, some money. OD. Government agent. Man, Okot. Your descriptions, man. Instagram trailblazer, CEO of our time. Man. Okay, the next one is going to be Hosni Mubarak. What do you guys think about Hosni Mubarak? Folks. Folk. Force of nature. Guys, what do you think about Instagram Slayer? You guys keep them coming. What do you think about Kingsman? Smooth talk, voice of radio. In it. Okay, I relate to that one. Ladies man. The ladies man thing, we shall do further investigation. Anyway, the last one is Asimwe Muhozi. What do you guys think about Asimwe Muhozi? Perfection. Handsome. Shooting shots. Low key. Interesting. Slow man. Okay. What do you guys think about Muhozi, Asimwe, intriguing. I like I like the description that are coming from the ladies. Cool kid. All I know is a Manu guy. He must be attending the Zoom meeting at the same time watching the match. Great storyteller. Okay, thank you very much. Stoic. Thank you very much, guys, for your contribution, and I would love to take on this opportunity without further ado to call upon the hack master before we go into the evaluation. The hack master, please get on the stage.
Thank you, David. Thanks a lot. So this is the Hackmaster section that I promised you. It's a couple of questions to test how attentive you have been to the various speakers. And the first question is a very simple warm-up question. So in case you want to answer the question, you can just raise your hand and I'll pick you to take on the question. The first one is an easy warm-up question. What is the theme of today's meeting? Anyone? What is the theme of today's meeting? Yes, David mentioned it a couple of times. What is the theme of today's meeting? I really hope I'm audible enough. David, can you hear me? Oh, Bridget, Marcel Bridget, you have the submission. Please unmute and give us the submission.
Flying with the Eagles is what's officially on the poster.
Yes, flying with the Eagles, that's correct. Now, the second question is, David, our Toastmaster, he mentioned something about his economics teacher. And I want to know which post did his economics teacher hold at his school? Anyone can answer this question except David. I'll repeat. David talked about his economics teacher. Which post did his economics teacher hold at his school? That was a good one. Elizabeth, I see Elizabeth has her hand up. Elizabeth, you can unmute and give your submission.
Deputy head teacher.
Deputy head teacher, that's correct. My question is very easy. Okay. Let me think. What is the title of Hosni's speech? Anyone willing to take that up? Anyone except Hosni? What was the title of Hosni's speech? What was the title of Hosni's speech? Anyone can answer except Hosni or his evaluator. I've forgotten about that. What was the title of Hosni's speech? No, it actually had a title. It had a title. The evaluator mentioned it. What is the title of Hosni's speech? I see no hand up. Oh, Emmanuel. Oh, is Emmanuel the evaluator? I think he's the one who mentioned the title. Emmanuel, you're not allowed to answer that question. Okay, but I think time is going. Emma, I think you can take up that question. I think we're losing time. Yes, Emma, you can submit.
Thank you, the Hackmaster. And as the evaluator, I don't think I was participating, but however, I think I noticed that most of the people did not. Because in the speech title was resurrection. That was the title of the speech.
Yes, I caught that anyway. So, Another one. What was the title of Okotola's speech? Anyone can answer except Okotola or his evaluator. What was the title of Okotola's speech? His evaluator mentioned it, and he also mentioned it. What was the title of Okotola's speech?
Yeah, I'm here. Yeah, I'm here.
Yes, you can give the submission. So what is the title? Ronald.
The title is "Before the Goats, the Killers for Sport."
Ronald, until the evaluator. But anyway,
yeah,
it's already answered. Okay. Oh, sorry.
Yeah. Yeah. Can you hear me?
It's okay. It's okay. Yes, I can hear you.
Yeah, the title was "We Are for the Gods, the Killers for Sport."
Oh yeah, that was the title. Thank you very much. The next question. The next question is, and anyone can answer this except Muhozi. So Muhozi talked about his first crush. Now, where did Muhozi meet his first crush? Anyone can answer this except Muhozi or his evaluator. So where did Muhozi meet his first crush? Ronald, are you taking that up? Where did Muhozi meet? Oh, Aruho. Yes, Aruho, you can unmute and submit.
Yes, Muhozi met his first crush at school.
Not quite. Let's try again, or someone else wants to try. Rebecca, yes. Can unmute and do your submission.
I think it was on Facebook.
Yes, that's right.
And they later met at a school function.
Yeah, that's the right answer. So I have a couple of more questions. Let me see. Atamba gave us a story about how he escaped school on, I think, his first day or one of his first days. But this story, he told us in this story there was one trait about himself that he discovered, the very first trait about himself that he discovered. Who knows this first trait that Atamba discovered about himself? Anyone can answer except Atamba or his evaluator. Yes, Hosni?
He was borderless?
Borderless. Not really, not quite. But that was one of the traits, but it wasn't the first. The very first trait that he discovered about himself. Yes, Aruho.
Yes, Atamba told us he discovered something about himself. He was a good problem solver. That's what he discovered.
Exactly. Yes, correct. Problem solving. Let me see. Oh, still on Atamba's story. What was his first dream and what motivated that first dream that he had? His very first dream. What was it and what motivated the dream? So those are two questions on. Yes, Hosni.
No. That wasn't me.
Oh,
that wasn't me.
Anyone want to take up the question? Anyone want to take up the question? What was Atamba's first dream? Is that Aruho? Aruho, do you have the submission?
Yes. Atamba's first dream, I think he was dreaming about being an engineer, and that's his goal.
Not really, not quite. Not quite. You want to try again, or does someone else have another submission? Except Atamba. What was Atamba's first dream? Yeah, this is a real test of attention. What was Atamba's first dream? Anyone? Oh, coming in. Oh, my question is, what was Atamba's dream, and what was the dream motivated by? That is, I see Patricia Mutumba. Patricia, do you want to take up this question? You can unmute and do your submission.
Yes, I think Atamba's first dream was to be a soldier. Yeah.
Yes.
Atamba's first dream was to be a soldier.
That's one part of the question. What was it motivated by?
And he was motivated by the fact that he had a number of uncles that were soldiers.
Good, very good, 100%. That's the right answer. So I think the evaluator is about to cut. Sorry, the time is about to cut me off. So I think I'll leave only one more question. What question did Hosni ask his teacher of English? That's one question that got him into trouble. What question did Hosni ask his teacher of English? Patricia, I see your hand is still up. Do you want to try that too? Anyone else take that up? I repeat, what question did Hosni ask his teacher of English and got him into trouble? Yes, Aruko. Yes, Aruko, do you have a submission?
Yes. Hosni asked his teacher about who brought English and who invented English.
Right, who invented English? That's correct. I think I have time for one more question, just one more question. Why isn't Hosni very supportive of secular education? Anyone can answer that except Hosni. Why isn't Hosni very supportive of secular education? Why isn't Hosni very supportive of secular education? Anyone want to take that up? Why isn't Hosni very supportive of secular education? Anyone want to take that up? So seeing that there is no one willing to take that up, I think from what I think from Hosni's speech, why he's not very supportive of secular education is that he's a person who prefers to put into practice whatever he learns. And secular education does not give us such a chance. It's very confining. You, for the most part, keep learning theories that you don't know how most of them will help you in life. You don't know how to use them, how to apply them in your daily life. So I think that was Hosni's criticism of secular education. Thank you very much, everyone. That was the Hackmaster session. Back to you, Toastmaster.
Thank you very much, the Hackmaster. That was such an engaging session, and we're getting into a quite similar session too, and that is the table topics. And I'm going to set the rules of the table topics. I don't know how many questions the table topics master has prepared, but we are going to get a best 3 questions from the table topics. And the rules still stand that A table topics session should last at least a minute. Give a speech in 1 to 2 minutes. Do not answer a question. It is not a Q&A. It is a table topics session. Give a speech. Respect all the jargons of public speaking to answer these questions. Ladies and gentlemen, let us welcome the table topics master, none other than Mr. Aruho Isaac. Take on the stage.
Yes, thank you so much for being here. Good evening. My name is Aruho Isaac. So I'm going to be your topics master, and I welcome you all to our 20th Gavel meeting. So one might ask, may try asking, what does table topics, or who is a table topics master? What is his work? Yes, a table topics session or table topics. It's just all about a portion of the meeting designed to make everyone answer, plus the guests, to give them an opportunity to speak and to impromptu them in giving just a random speech, any question that comes across them, answer it, and they can be able to formulate what was in their past and present. So I want to give the importance of the table topics session in a meeting. It's just to support us in the leadership skills, time management, and to help us develop our impromptu speeches. So I'm going to choose any random person as a topics master. I'm going to choose any person to tell us about, let me try getting, so just get ready for this question. I'm going to call upon Maria Croy. Yes, are you there? Can you hear us? Can you please mute and hear us? Tell us about the question I'm going to ask you. Are you hearing us? Maria. Maria, are you there?
Yes, I'm hearing you.
Yes. I'm going to ask you a question, and you're going to use only 1 minute to answer it. So please tell us, what is the difference between you and the present plus the past you? The present you, the difference between the present you and the past you.
The past me was a girl who could not stand up for herself, a girl who could not express her thoughts to the maximum. And the present me is different. I am more assertive and open-minded.
Are you done?
Yeah.
Yes, thank you so much. The next random person.
Table topics master. Can I interject a little?
Yes, it's okay.
I want to give okay. It is always recommended that you choose an expert to show others how to do it, and I want to give my view on how I would approach such a question. Talk about the present you and the past you without answering the question in under 5 seconds. Ladies and gentlemen, I don't want to introduce myself because according to the Makerere Gavel Club rules, a table topic session is supposed to be a session where you just start straight on the point. People are born differently. Some are born dark, others are light-skinned. And I won't disclose how I was born. Those that have seen me can testify. When I was younger, I was stubborn. When I was younger, I was mad. I like to see my fellow youngins cry. I was very naughty. I was aggressive. I would beat my fellow youngins hard because I was inspired by the Jackie Chan and the Bruce Lee movies that I watched. The Jean-Claude Van Damme's were my icons. And in that, I got very aggressive. John Rambo was my number one icon. And that instilled a spirit of fighting all the time. And I assure you, every time they were caning people at infant school, I never escaped because those movies instilled a lot. In the past, I used to fear for the next class. In the past, I used to fear to fail. In the past, I was a smart boy. But now, I am more concerned about where the money is. In the past, I wanted to be an engineer. In the past, I wanted to be a pharmacist for a reason I do not know. In the past, I wanted to be the great three professions they always sang for us: engineer, doctor, lawyer. Right now, I want to be rich and famous. Thank you very much, Table Topics Master. Now, okay, I feel like that's how you could structure an impromptu speech. Like, don't be like, the past I used to be timid. Now I am brave. Thank you very much. Azim. Anyway, thank you.
Thank you
You
so
can
much.
go on.
Thank you so much, Kahaika, for that inquiry. And I think Maria has had. Let me try, okay, and the rest of the people. So let me try asking some other person different questions so that we beat time. Let me go to Rebecca a bit more. Are you there? Are you listening? Rebecca?
Yes, I am.
Yes, thank you so much for that. Yes, I'm going to ask you another question. Are you ready?
Please go ahead.
Yeah. What is your opinion about young girls getting pregnant at a young age? Use your 2 minutes. Rebecca?
Thank you.
Rebecca, are
Thank
you
you
there?
so much. Yes,
Uh-huh.
I'm there.
Yes.
That is a very interesting question, actually. Now, the numbers, the prevalence of teenage pregnancies have really increased, and my opinion is it is it is something that can be controlled, but it is at a subdue level. The responsibility is majorly to the community and down to the individual families. And so I wouldn't be in support of okaying it as a policy, but would rather give a hand to the various organizations and peers that are going an extra mile to ensure that the prevalence of a teenage pregnancies, especially in rural areas, is halted or at least is brought to a minimal level.
Auntie, but I'm in a meeting.
Rebecca, are you done or you have been interrupted?
Yes, that was interrupted, but it's okay. It's basically the same thing.
Okay, you can continue. Rebecca?
Yes, as I was
Yes.
saying, one
Mhm.
of when it comes to teenage pregnancies, one of the reasons as to why this happens is because girls are denied the right to make decisions about their sexual and reproductive health as well as well-being. Therefore, my opinion would be to encourage the organizations and people who are coming up to educate young girls about their reproductive health and be more aware about their sexuality so that the increasing levels of the estimates are at least curbed, especially in the rural areas. Thank you.
She's
Trying to beat the
done.
time. Yes, trying to beat the time given to me. Let me try to ask another question to a different person now. This question is going to, let me try to bring back Hosni. Hosni, are you there? Yeah?
Yes, I am.
Yes, thank you so much for coming. So you're going to answer this one. Have you ever been a victim of stereotype? And tell us how you have been a victim of stereotype.
Okay, so what kind of stereotype are we talking about?
Any.
Okay, stereotype. Now, I would definitely say it is very hard to trace back to that particular moment when I was stereotyped. However, I was speaking to, anyway, I definitely do recall very many other people's experiences. My experiences tend to be really hatched. But as for stereotyping, I have not really had the opportunity to be, I don't even want to think of it as an opportunity. It don't sound comfortable. But stereotyping, no, I've not had the unfortunate pleasure of being stereotyped yet, and I hope it never comes.
Okay. Let me try to ask someone else. Let me see. Should I call upon Dovia Gerard?
Yes, I can hear you loud and clear.
Yes, thank you so much. You have been selected to answer one of the topics that have been given to you. So please tell us about, you have had, please tell us and briefly tell us the security in Uganda in total. You have recently heard about the trending manslaughter in Masaka district. Let us say you were the chairman of Masaka district. How would you improve on the security and the manslaughter in Masaka district?
Okay, thank you for the opportunity. Well, I'm going to presume you are either members in a delegation that I'm talking to. So, good evening. And I do acknowledge the fact that as a society, we have been ravaged by a number of challenges, including the security threat that is multifaceted based on the fact that it goes beyond individual problems from a point of poverty that then changes or metamorphizes into threats that affect individuals, we as we stay in this place. However, we also understand that there are a number of loopholes that do affect our security system. That is both from an institutional perspective and logistical. Logistical to the point that there are no people who are staffed within the state agencies, but also the state agencies have particular characters or traits that have eaten up their ability to go ahead and protect the security of the people, including corruption. And of course, they are tired. But what then can we do? I don't think as a society we have to fold our hands and just look on. Probably we actually need to call out some of the key officials. One technique that has always worked is shaming. And in the media era, and probably the youth who are actively on social media platforms, that is social media, that is Twitter, Facebook, whatever social media you can land on, you can go ahead and continuously shame the number of people that are involved in a number of scandals, security scandals. But also as a community, we have to be our brother's keeper and ensure that every other person out there can be reached out to. Whenever a person is having a problem, do not wait on back like the boy child is suffering with silence. Reach out to a colleague and let them know that either last night you had a person knock at your door or you had a number of footsteps in the back, so that we can be able to know that we are actually a secure place. Otherwise, as a chairman, there are a number of institutional and logistical problems that I may not be able to address. But I believe if we're united together, we can actually put ahead a very good forefront and a very big foot in the face of the security problems that we face. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. One last more question goes to, let me see. Let me see. Let me call upon a female now. Female. Mariana. Mariana?
I can hear you.
Yes. Thank you so much. So get ready for the question. Does life seem to give you everything that you wish for?
No, I don't think life gives you everything you wish for.
So
I feel like there's a little bit of, I don't think life gives you everything that you wish for. Hello?
Tell us, elaborate more about it.
I was speaking, then you interrupted. Anyway, I don't feel like life gives us everything that we wish for. Everything that we get or we experience in life, it's due to a couple of circumstances that have merged. One of them may be being hard work. Second, being the right timing or being in the right place at the right time. Thirdly, being, I feel like willpower. Like, I feel like sometimes you must want for something to happen in order for it to happen, or you must want to get something in order for it to come to you. Yeah, I feel like those are three circumstances that may push for something to happen. I don't feel like we always get the things we want. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you so much. One last more question. Atamba.
Yes, I hear you.
Yes, thank you, my brother. Thank you for being here. Can you please tell us to what extent has social media become an image of reality?
To what extent has social media become an image of
reality?
Yes. Well, I believe each of us here has succumbed to different effects of social media, and each of us is basically using social media in our daily lives. So what am I trying to say? Social media has become part of us. We've learned to live with social media like we learned to live with COVID-19. So social media is something that came as technological revolution to stay with us for the rest of our lives. So we should look at it as the face of our reality, because it's here to stay and it's here to bring to us adverse effects and positive outcomes. Thank you.
Thank you so much. yeah, I think my session is now ending from here, and I thank you for being here with us. I'm agog to hear from you guys. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Aruho Isaac, for taking us through that breathtaking session of table topics. The next is going to be one of our last sessions, and that is the evaluation. For every speaker needs to hear from the evaluator. For feedback is food for the what? For the champion, as Mr. S likes to quote. And I want to go to the general evaluator. And I want the general evaluator to invite the various evaluators if she is in position. Dear general evaluator, are you?
Yes, thank you very much. Thank you very much, Mr. Toastmaster. As Davison Kahaika has mentioned, feedback is definitely food for the soul or for whatever makes you grow. And our main aim as Makerere Gavel Club is to enable us grow and share, learn and unlearn at every step that we take. Therefore, with interest in time, I'm going to invite the evaluators to present their notes on how they found their respective speakers. I will start with the Mr. Atamba's evaluator. Are you available? Please take the floor and give us feedback on what you think about his speech, on what you thought about his speech. Rather. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much, the general evaluator. My name is Gerald Ndovia, and I was Atamba's evaluator. And I must say I'm still agog at going ahead and evaluating Atamba as we progress on this particular speech. So if I'm to give a brief recap of what Atamba talked about, or his icebreaker speech was all about. Firstly, of course, I would say it's a prison break movie star to currently an aspiring engineer. Quite a move. But anyway, he opened with a beautiful quote that ideally pointed us towards understanding what he was going to tell us about, which I thought was a very brilliant thing to do. And then, of course, he took us through that storytelling from nursery school, wherein, of course, we see the movie star in him and realizing that he's a problem solver from all the challenges that he faced at the time. And he also took us into the secondary school journey, where we are seeing a move from a Christian livelihood to a Muslim livelihood, and of course the change in society and dynamics that are taking place at the time. And of course, we realized that there's a particular hate that came up and made him love the sciences instead of the arts, which of course he didn't disclose. But of course, through this, we are seeing leadership coming up as well, which he chooses to take on. And through all these, we are seeing that he realizes that fate and destiny is very important. So and of course, the three reflections that were very key and at the heart of his speech was the fact that one, he realized he's a problem solver. Secondly, he's very tolerant. And thirdly, he's a believer in fate and destiny. So what did I think was done well in this speech? First of all, there was clarity of the speech. And this is right from the spoken word. Of course, the general evaluator will have what she can say about that. But in my view, as the evaluator, there was a great use of a spoken word based on the fact that the story or the journey that he has taken was very clear to all of us. Then secondly, he was very comfortable with the journey he was talking about. He was very comfortable with his story. He was self-assured to the point that his story came out clear to all of us who are listening to it. There was nothing that could show either lack of either adding some juice to it or adding some soul to it. And then lastly, of course, due to the mode, of course, we're conducting these meetings in, the eye contact was also okay. And I think for those particular 3 areas, there was great work that was done. However, what I think can be done better, first of all, there was ineffective use of tone, speed, and volume. As a speaker, tone, speed, and volume is very important to highlight the important aspects of your speech. Either you will use a pause to illustrate, because for example, when you talked about the fact that you reached a point and had this beef with your teacher, that was a point to pause, so that you allow the audience to digest what you're talking about, so that the audience gets to understand where you're coming from by the fact that you're making a switch to the sciences. And that is also the same thing that you use the speed and volume for. You can, and of course, the speed that is, of course, pause and on, and then the tonation of the words. How are you audible? Are you choosing to highlight particular statements in your sentences for purposes of emphasis? Some aspects of your speech need to come out a little clear because they are seemingly the cornerstones of what you're talking about. And so you can use tone, speed, and volume to actually highlight that. And of course, whereas, like I say again, the mode, trying to engage the audience is quite a little problematic. Of course, you'll have to call back and forth, but I would have loved to see you try to do it, try to engage the audience, try to pick on a few colleagues to listen to their minds about particular things. But overall, the particular reflections that you put at the end of every story, right from the nursery school story, to the secondary school story, to the university story and where you are, those particular reflections, the ideas you learned from that were very succinct and helped us to be able to relate and actually get to know who you are. Thank you so much, Atamba, and I wish you the very best on this journey.
Thank you very much, Ndovia Gerald. That was very profound. I agree with you on most of, or if not all, of the levels that you talked about, especially given the fact that you know exactly where the weaknesses are, and given the fact that you went through the speech before, your expectation matches delivery should be able to do that. So thank you very much again. Next, we are going to go to Mr. Asimwe Muhozi, who was evaluating Atamba Moses' speech. That happened to be an icebreaker speech. So please take over the floor. Are you available? Is he available? No?
I beg your pardon? The evaluator for Okot?
Yes, please.
Okay. First of all, I want to first apologize. My network is really messed up here, so I'm going to try to keep it very brief and precise. Is my audio okay? Can you guys hear me well?
Yes, we can hear you now.
Okay. So about Okot, you know, the greatest speakers are not speakers that talk about astronomy. They're not people that talk about the stars and the moon. No. If you look back to the history, that have come out to be great orators are people that talk about things that are very, very relatable with, things that everyone about, the dream he had, Martin Luther King. Yes, everyone has a dream and everyone can easily relate to the speech Martin Luther King was delivering that day. So when I was listening to Sam's speech, I really wanted to get something that was very, very relatable. First of all, I will first start with the credits. I give some credit for the title for his speech. Sometimes people listen, sometimes people fight so hard to listen to your speech because of the title you give it. People want to know something that is unusual, something that is not so new. So Sam, I give you credit for that, man. That was very nice. The title for the speech was very captivating. Yes. I'm really so scared about my network. I doubt you can even hear me right now. But what I can say, Sam's speech was very, very relatable with. He took time to really do the research and put everything in place to deliver his speech. One thing I noticed about his speech was the thing he got from that movie, The Fault in Our Stars. Because let's first ask ourselves, what's the use? Yeah, man, timekeeper, man. Guy, you're taking me very fast. What's the role of a second project point? We want to see the ability and all this body. Sorry? Yes. So you as far as the second the second project is concerned for some and it's clear they play us like a sport, something that you cannot afford to take your life too seriously because you won't live your life alive. You know, you can arrange your life from chaos to order. I don't know. I think I'll give more of these analytics to some in person. I may not be able to give them here because of network. I'm not well comfortable with this entire setting, but I'll talk to some in person. Thank you so much.
All right, thank you so much, Ronald, for your feedback. It was actually very, very clear for most of the points, and they make absolute sense. Well, due to time, I'm going to invite Miss Masaba Bridget to give us her notes on her speaker, who is delivering a nice breakfast speech as well. Masaba Bridget. Are you available? Is she on the call? No? Okay, Emmanuel Akandanaho, who evaluated Mr.
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes, loud and clear. We can hear you. Please go ahead.
So, thank you so much. The genuine value. Once again, I was Husni Mubarak as evaluator, evaluating his icebreaker speech titled Resurrection. And before I go into the remarks of this speech, if you notice Husni Mubarak, a name of a prominent president of East Ababa. So which shows is a great person or a great person to be. And in my discussions earlier on with the areas that needs improvement. More so, as we all know that Hosni is great at what he does. He has a voice for the radio. As we all know, this is level 1 on concerning feedback and then and evaluation. The first and foremost, one thing I noticed in your speech, there's always a repetition of the word anyway. Every time you use anyway, then he moves to another story when you never wanted to go into details of the story. You talked initially, I don't know when you started your speech, but I remember you started your speech when you were told us how you were left, your parents used to leave you at home, and then you found love in watching animation. Then from there, like, anyway, so then high school level, Kevin. Okay, so I realized that you tended to use the word anyway to avoid to go into little details of the story. Because at the start, we really want to know who's Hosni. Me, that was my entire life. Who's your parent? Who are your parents? How were you born? What kind of person were you? Go to the very details. How stubborn were you? Are you the firstborn? Do you have brothers? Do you have sisters? We want to know these details. And then going back to school, how was your primary level? How were you kind of person? You just jumped straight away. I saw you talked about your Ricky teacher, but then I didn't know whether how you got to that level. How were you stubborn? Were you, if you were inquisitive? Well, I noticed you mentioned you were a very inquisitive person. That you asked a very exogenous question that quite left the room, questioning or wondering that later on in life that made you seek out self in your high school level, in A level, of course, or not. You talked about to go into an education whereby people are not in your best interests, and then you opted for self-education to books, summarizing their content. And then I think those people that you're talking about, is it Steve Jobs? Who exactly is this person that maybe you could also learn something from them? That's something you did not tell us. We also wanted to know, when you learned about education, is a package of something that you already what those lessons that you learned that we could pick from that made you think otherwise about education, that some of your highlights that we can learn going forward? What you started, what made you start the podcast? And that's to me in the brief detail, that's the whole thing we wanted to know. And how do you handle your relationships? Yeah, basically, or it could be also, who was your first love life? How was your first love life like? Just going into the date. And this is something that you're fond of doing on your podcast. If you've been hosted, I know some of you, or if not, or have listened or been hosted, is you notice when you seems like it feels like we also expected you to be asking yes. So it seems like you're a very positive person. So why did you go about it? So I expected you to have gone into the very details. That's to me on my side, and I wish you all the best. I would recommend that you repeat your icebreaker, probably in verbal cues, how you respond to questions, and giving you a very fast.
Thank you so much, Emma. Thank you so much for your feedback. That was profound and very helpful. Now, I'm still requesting, is Vasala Bridget still on the call? Or can we have someone else to evaluate our last speaker? Asimu Mohozi, Masaba Bridget is meant to evaluate, but I don't see her on the call now. Can someone else step in and evaluate?
I think I can
No?
just throw a few things here and there. However, Masaba Bridget, if unfortunately she doesn't come back on the call, she will have a burden of performance to share her evaluation with Asemwe in their inboxes. For Hosni, please take it on. Please take it on. I'll add to what you're going to say.
Okay, thank you. So firstly, I wanted to say that his story was quite detailed. His story was quite rich, actually. As a matter of fact, he goes on to transition from one section to another with a lot of proficiency. And then he was very keen to the highlights. You know, he was very specific about the events that were happening in his life and properly relaying them to us. I felt that was something that was really, really heavy and whole as well. And then he was very transparent about details that perhaps very many folks would tend to think, oh god, there was folks. Very many, anyway, you guys will get used to it. Very many folks would feel like, you know, it can be intimidating information, or perhaps you may want to keep it to yourself. But then he goes very, very raw and real about it. So I just felt like that was something that was very solid. And lastly, I loved his authenticity. Now, this may seem like it's literally the same thing as the previous assessments, but it's actually not. You know, authenticity really comes from a point of being very organic. You know, you could not feel like perhaps he had rehearsed this entire speech, or maybe he wrote it down somewhere. It was just coming from heart to heart. And so I really felt like I received it very well. Back to you, Davis.
Thank you very much, Mr. Hosni. I think an icebreaker is supposed to be simple and easy to evaluate because there are no technicalities. It's simply your story. You're trying to tell us who you are. And if by the end of your story we know who you are, then you've done it great. What Hosni has shared is what you did well, Mr. Asemwe. And in most cases, icebreaker, it's more about what you did well and if we understood who you are, since it's an introduction. So I think the only place you could work on would be gestures and emphasis, especially in like vocal varieties. Rather than that, it was such a great speech. I love speeches that are in a storytelling manner. Storytelling is the most captivating style of giving a speech. Thank you very much, Mr. Asimwe Mohozi.
All right, thank you so much, guys, for your feedback. Thank you so much. That was very helpful. Every time someone delivers a speech, especially an icebreaker speech, they have to get the fundamental. With this feedback, they're able to know exactly what to adjust, where to improve, what their strengths are, and what their weaknesses are. This is the importance of the feedback from the evaluators that we have. At, at any point, each one of us has been an evaluator in our lives. If anyone has asked you a question at work, at school, and you have analyzed the situation and given feedback, that is already an evaluation. And you realize in most situations, it's enabling you get more knowledge on a particular topic, or at least balance the different ideologies that you can have. So thank you so much for that. Now, I I think I'm going to go ahead and if it's okay with you, I could go ahead and give a general evaluation, then we can have the final session. Is that okay?
You can call upon the report from the timer and the grammarian stroke accountant.
Okay, awesome. So I can see Mariana Nakabi is still on the call. I'd love to invite you to give us your report in as far as our time management is concerned for every speech, and as well as the table topics, the hack session, and the meeting generally. So, Madame Mariana Nakavia, please.
Hello. Okay, thank you very much. Unfortunately, I wasn't around when the meeting started, so I don't know if the meeting started on time. I arrived or I came in onto the call when Atamba had started speaking. So I'm going to talk about time management and why it's crucial to keep time while speaking. So when given a certain amount of time, I feel like people should be observant or should be crucial to and encourage themselves to always keep time and keep within the time range when giving speeches. Because I feel like if you go beyond time, I feel like people will switch off and they get bored and they would no longer listen to you. Like, for example, if you've been given a time so to speak for 6 minutes, imagine you speak for 20 minutes. I mean, by the time you finish the 20th minute, people have basically shut down or they are no longer listening to what you're saying. And speaking within a shorter span of time or below the given time, I feel like you haven't expounded your time and you haven't given in all that you had to say. Because, for example, if you're giving an icebreaker speech and you give it within 4 minutes, I feel you haven't told us more about yourself. And I feel like the best way to become observant about using time or to be cautious about time is to practice. So whenever you're given a speech project or whenever you're given a chance to speak, I feel like you should practice and fill each time slot with what you're going to say so that you're not caught off guard, so that you don't speak for a longer period of time or for a shorter period of time. So we had a few of you going beyond the given time, especially the people who are giving the icebreaker speeches, even those who are doing the table topics and the Hackmaster session. So Atamba, you did 9 minutes, but and Okot Ola did, I think, 9 minutes also. Yet the appropriate time for an icebreaker speech is supposed to be 6 minutes. So you guys need to master the courage of keeping time. So that means the next time you're giving speeches, go and practice and see how you do what and when. So you design your speech. Let's say in the first minute, you're talking about this. In the second minute, you're talking about this. In the third minute, yeah, like that, so that you keep time. So this is a club that helps us learn how to keep time. Yeah. Then we had the table topic session, which stretched for 20 minutes. And I feel like it stretched for 20 minutes because Kahaika interrupted during the table topic session. I feel like this wasn't right. Okay, I don't know, someone can correct me, but I feel like he would have bring this in after the table topic session so that they can learn from it. Because if we keep on interrupting speakers or role takers whenever they are doing something, then we're going to spend much more time on this call. So I feel like this should be done during the evaluation stage. If someone does a mistake, then don't interrupt, then maybe it should be done during evaluation. Then we had, okay, I didn't talk about Hosni. Hosni had exactly 6 minutes, which was quite impressive. But I feel like before he started giving his speech, he was telling us about what he was going to talk about. I feel like immediately when you come onto the platform to speak, start with your speech straight away. Don't talk about other stuff, because we already start timing immediately you start speaking. So yeah, you need to keep time. So yeah. Then our Hackmaster session took 15 minutes, which was quite impressive. It wasn't so much, but still, I feel like we should work on time management and we should learn how to manage our time. Yeah. Then most of the evaluators were supposed to take 4 minutes. But of course, most of them went beyond. And I feel like feedback is something that's very good, but it shouldn't be so lengthy. We should keep it within the time slot. So I feel like, again, we need to arrange our speeches. When we're going to speak, we arrange our points within the time slot so that we learn how to keep time and we learn how to be disciplined about timekeeping. Yeah, that's all I have to say about.
Thank you so much, Mariana. We definitely see the importance of keeping time in every session of our meetings, and we need to really adjust, especially for the different role takers. And in as far as looping into another session is concerned, we should try to avoid that, because it always takes 1-2 minutes, and all that rounded up just pushes the session to a longer time. So I'm going to use this time to invite Mr. Aruho Isaac, the Sergeant at Arms, it's Elizabeth Chisaka, who is a grammarian, at the same time acting as the accountant, to present her report. Elizabeth,
thank you so much. Yes, so I'm going to start off. Bridget Masaba was the first speaker, I would say, besides the Toastmaster of the day. She used the word of the day, but the word of the day was agog, which meant for the synonym to excited and eager. So she used the word of the day, but as an accountant, she often used the postfill filler and continuously. Gerald did not use the word of the day, and he also often used the postfill and filler and also. So yeah, Emmanuel also did not use the word of the day, but I think I would excuse him because he used it mainly in the chat. I'm now going on to the speakers of the day. Mohozi used the word of the day, but he had two informal words that he used during his speech: cause and TV, supposed to be television, and because. The use of postfill fillers was minimal in his speech. Atamba was able to use the word of the day, but he did not use idioms, nor quotes and similes. Okot used the post filler, really often, and he quoted someone, which was actually really good. He did not use the word of the day in his speech. Hosni did not use the word of the day, and he used the post filler, and he used the statement I reckoned wrongly, as it means a different thing as to what he used it in his speech. The table topics people, once we get the table topics, Atamba, at the start of his speech, there was too much repetition of social media. Yes. And at this point in the meeting, I think people had forgotten about the word of the day. At the start, everyone was using it, but at this point, people lost interest till at the end when the table topics master was ending his speech, and he actually re-echoed the word of the day. Heading to where the general evaluator came in, Davis was able to quote one of the evaluators, which was really great, and also Rebecca at the start of her speech, which was really impressive. Gerald did not use the word of the day, neither did Ronald and Emma. Yes. So I do not know if the word of the day was really unrelatable, but most people did not use it. Heading to the timer, she used the word, I feel like it was overly used. And also the word you guys, it's informal and unprofessional. So my general overview was there were minimal use of idioms, similes, and quotes, and also the word of the day was really not used. Thank you so much.
All right, thank you so much, Elizabeth Chisaka. The report you gave, I think, is for the grammarian and the accountant. Okay, I think I didn't get that part. But thank you so much for your feedback. It's really amazing to be able to hear back from you to encourage us in making our daily speeches better, especially in as far as using the word of the day is concerned. These words that are given to us each week are to enable us encompass them in our speeches so we can be much better and increase our vocabulary, not only while presenting our speeches, but also in our day-to-day conversations, in our day-to-day interactions. So thank you so much for the feedback. And I would encourage each and every one of us to use these words outside of the meeting as well. So it was a really great session. I'm going to just, Mr. Toastmaster, do you have something to add?
Nothing really much. Maybe to follow up on the icebreakers, what stage they have to go to after doing the icebreaker. The evaluation and feedback should be actually put into consideration. It is a very serious stage in level 1. Yeah.
Okay, I totally concur with that. It is always important for each one of us to advance to the next level after you're done with your icebreaker speech. And from that, you can go to the next, and without even knowing it, you will be at the greatest level of the speeches and will be able to even compete at the different levels, nationals, internationally. So it should be a good thing to encourage each one of us to advance from our icebreaker speeches. Now, other than that, the meeting was great. It actually started at around 7:01, which shows that it was prepared for and it was organized. Everyone was properly introduced, except for the part where I think one of the role takers was not available and was introduced later on, but they were properly introduced nonetheless. The evaluations were splendid. The grammarian, I would like to emphasize on the role takers. Usually I tend to go off script when it comes to presentations, but it's important that if you can't handle going off script, we have the manuals that you can always follow so that you don't go astray or you go too much in depth, especially when you're presenting. And I have done that error today several times, and I apologize for that, especially in the introductions of the different role takers and even at the beginning of the meeting. So with the manuals that are available to us, mostly for the role takers, it's important for us to go through them and know exactly what we are supposed to be doing during these meetings. The topics master, the purpose and the timing of the table topics was explained properly, and the questions that were given, I believe, were appropriate. and we should all be eager to indulge in this session so that we can improve our speech capacity. The guests were invited to participate, which was a good thing. Where lack thereof, improvisation was always a solution, and it went smoothly. That was great. It's really important to keep the meeting moving, regardless of whether some people have network on their end or may not be available in the call. So that was a good flow of the meeting. Other than that, I have nothing else to add. I'm going to hand over back to you, Mr. Toastmaster.
Are you done?
Yes, I am.
Oh, thank you very much. I think this is marking the end of our meetings this month till the last two meetings, the last two Sundays of next month. I know so many people here do so many things, so take off this time to chill. Bridget, man, there are quite a number of people who want to do the icebreakers, who want to join the club. You can handle them accordingly. And let's take off some time and rest, man, guys. Don't die. When it gets overwhelming, man, it loses productivity. So we're going to use this like 2 to 3 weeks to chill, just be calm. Publicity team, man, we need to put in more energy. We need to keep pushing that content and keep sounding on social media. Otherwise, thank you very much for attending and see you around. Bye.